Words of clan mother Ahnissi to her favored daughter. Ahnissi tells you, you are no longer a mewing kitten, and you have learned to keep secrets from Ahnissi, and so Ahnissi tells you. In the beginning, there were two littermates, Anur and Fadomai. After many phases, Fadomai said to Anur, "Let us wed and make children to share our happiness." And they gave birth to Alkash, the first cat. And Anur said, "Alkash, we give you time for what is as fast or as slow as a cat." And they gave birth to Kenarthi, the winds. "Kenarthi, to you we give the sky, for what can fly higher than the wind?" And they gave birth to Magris, the cat's eye. "Magris, to you we give the sun, for what is brighter than the eye of a cat?" And they gave birth to Mara, the mother cat. "Mara, you are love, and what is more loving than a mother?" And they gave birth to Sarendar, the runt. "Sarendar, we give you mercy, for how does a runt survive except by mercy?" And many phases passed, and Anur and Fadomai were happy. And Anur said, "We should have more children to share our happiness." And Fadomai agreed. And she gave birth to Hermorah, and she gave birth to Hersign, and she gave birth to Meruns, and Malfala, and Sangin, and Shegorath, and many others. And Fadomai said, Hermorah, you are the tides, for who can say whether the moons predict the tides or the tides predict the moons? Hersign, you are the hungry cat, for what hunts better than a cat with an empty belly? Meruns, you are the Khajiit, for what is more destructive than a kitten? Mafala, you are the clan mother, for what is more secretive than the ways of the clan mothers? Sangin, you are the blood cat, for who can control the urges of blood? Shagarath, you are the skooma cat, for what is crazier than a cat on skooma? And Anur said, 2 litters is enough, for too many children will steal our happiness. But Kenarthi went to Fadomai and said, "Fadomai, mother, Kenarthi grows lonely so high above the world where not even my brother Alkash can fly." Fadomai took pity on her and tricked Anur to make her pregnant again. And Fadomai gave birth to the moons and their motions, and she gave birth to Nurni, the majestic sands and lush forests, and she gave birth to Azura, the dusk and the dawn. And from the beginning, Nurni and Azura fought for their mother's favor. Anur caught Fadomai while she was still birthing, and he was angry. Anur struck Fadomai, and she fled to birth, the last of her litter, far away in the great darkness. Fadomai's children heard what had happened, and they all came to be with her and protect her from Anur's anger. And Fadomai gave birth to Lorkhaj, the last of her litter, in the great darkness. And the heart of Lorkhaj was filled with the great darkness. And when he was born, the great darkness knew its name, and it was Namara. And Fadomai knew her time was near. Fadomai said, "Jakanje, to you Fadomai gives the lattice, for what is steadier than the phases of the moon? Your eternal motions will protect us from Anur's anger." And the moons left to take their place in the heavens, and Anur growled and shook the great darkness, but he could not cross the lattice. And Fadomai said, "Nurni, to you Fadomai leaves her greatest gift. You will give birth to many people as Fadomai gave birth today." When Nurni saw that Azura had nothing, Nurni left smiling. And all Fadomai's children left except Azura. And Fadomai said, "To you, my favored daughter, Fadomai leaves her greatest gift. To you, Fadomai leaves her secrets." And Fadomai told her favorite daughter 3 things. And Fadomai said, "When Nurni is filled with her children, take one of them and change them. Make the fastest, cleverest, most beautiful people, and call them Khajiit." And Fadomai said, "The Khajiit must be the best climbers, for if Maser and Secunda fail, they must climb Kenarthi's breath to set the moons back in their courses." And Fadomai said, "The Khajiit must be the best deceivers, for they must always hide their nature from the children of Anur." And Fatomai said, the Khajiit must be the best survivors, for Nerni will be jealous, and she will make the sands harsh and the forests unforgiving, and the Khajiit will always be hungry and at war with Nerni. And with these words, Fatomai died. After many phases, Nerni came to Lorkhaj and said, Lorkhaj, Fatomai told me to give birth to many children, but there is no place for them. And Lorkhaj said, Lorkhaj makes a place for children, and Lorkhaj puts you there so you can give birth. But the heart of Lorkhaj was filled with the great darkness, and Lorkhaj tricked his siblings so that they were forced into this new place with Nerni. And many of Fatomai's children escaped and became the stars, and many of Fatomai's children died to make Nerni's path stable, and the survivors stayed and punished Lorkhaj. The children of Fatomai tore out the heart of Lorkhaj and hid it deep within Nerni. And they said, we curse you, noisy Lorkhaj, to walk Nerni for many phases. But Nerni soon forgave Lorkhaj, for Nerni could make children, and she filled herself with children, but cried because her favorite children, the forest people, did not know their shape. And Azura came to her and said, poor Nerni, stop your tears. Azura makes for you a gift of a new people. Nerni stopped weeping, and Azura spoke the first secret to the moons, and they parted and let Azura pass. And Azura took some forest people who were torn between man and beast, and she placed them in the best deserts and forests on Nerni. And Azura, in her wisdom, made them of many shapes, one for every purpose. And Azura named them Khajiit, and told them her second secret, and taught them the value of the secrets. And Azura bound the new Khajiit to the lunar lattice, as is proper for Nerni's secret defenders. Then Azura spoke the third secret, and the moons shone down on the marshes, and their light became sugar. But Yifur heard the first secret and snuck in behind Azura. And Yifur could not appreciate secrets, and he told Nerni of Azura's trick. So Nerni made the deserts hot and the sands biting, and Nerni made the forests wet and filled with poisons. And Nerni thanked Yifur and let him change the forest people also. And Yifur did not have Azura's subtle wisdom, so Yifur made the forest people elves always and never beasts. And Yifur named them Bosmer, and from that moment they were no longer in the same litter as the Khajiit. And because Yifur had no appreciation for secrets, he shouted the first secret across all the heavens with his last breath, so that all of Fatomai's children could cross the lattice. But Azura, in her wisdom, closed the ears of angry Anur and noisy Lorkhaj, so they alone did not hear the word.